Do indeed. It's a great night of recognitions. We're going to start off by having Andrea Williams-English, our health services coordinator for the district, come forward. We're going to recognize some members of Northeast Georgia Health System tonight that have helped us with hands-on CPR. Suzanne Gerard is not here with us tonight, but she has worked with Andrea and this team to do this training throughout the district, and it's been such a success. And I'm going to ask Mallory if she will go ahead and jump to that hands-on CPR update, and we'll go through it that way, all in one shake. So thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. So I'd like to go ahead and have Cody Savage and Amy Poole come on up, and my cluster nurses. We got Angie Haynes, Janice Nicholson, and Leslie McIntyre. We are excited to say that Mr. Strickle has always valued heart health, and he gave us the opportunity to partner with Northeast Georgia Health System, so we really appreciate him bringing them to the table and connecting us and giving us the opportunity. So Suzanne Gerard and I sat down with him and asked him what his vision was, and we have continued that for a couple of years now. We're really pleased. We wanted to share this presentation with you. If you would just go through the slides with us. So we were able to reach out to 9 schools, all of our high schools. We were able to do hands-on CPR, where they actually got to see a presentation and then participate in the CPR process, as well as use an AED trainer. We did over 1,200 students. We used 112 student volunteers. So that's our students serving as peer leaders. They were actually in there working with a group of their peer students and doing the CPR, making sure they're doing it correctly and giving that feedback. So it's also a learning leadership experience for them. We value our community partners, so not just Northeast Georgia Health System, but Lanier Tech provided us also some nursing students to assist us with that. And we had 10 of the Northeast Georgia folks that also volunteered. And these are 2 of our fabulous people, along with Mitch Ryder, who, bless his heart, did not have childcare tonight and thought it was too much to bring his little sweet young ones in. If you would go to the next slide. And this is a video we'd like to play for you.
Welcome to the CPR training session for juniors. Today we are learning how to say and we learn how to do hands-on practice in chest compression, pushing rocks and fast on the chest to keep the heart.
So we're here today to teach you hands-on CPR. It's for all the juniors at all the high schools here in all counties, and it's to essentially save lives. We know that whenever you can get by-centered CPR quicker with AED, with defibrillations, outcomes are improved 2 to 3 times.
It's important to learn how to do CPR because it saves lives and you can actually become a hero after.
All right, and that video was actually made by our Chesty High School students, and Stephen McIntyre is just all sheepishly and quietly back there. Raise your hand, Stephen. Nice job with those students. So we like to make sure that our students are leaders in all arenas. We appreciate them coming. So just a few pictures of our events. This is Chesty High School. We did get a good leadership photo there, that big one right there, but I'm going to let you just scroll through those for us. North Hall High School. You can see that Trojan green. There's Bluff, our purple, Bears shining through. Flowery Branch Falcons, our red and our black. Iverson Early Learning College, and they were the only ones that had people register when they arrived, so they had hard data on who actually showed up, so they could hunt down those that might try to sneak out. And then West Hall High School, in their gym, their wrestling gym, all those wrestling mats, and then our Johnson High School Knights. We were really pleased. The children, the students really seemed to enjoy it. And then, of course, LCCA, one of our smaller groups, but strong groups. And our East Hall Vikings. And special thanks. We really want Northeast Georgia to know we could not do this without them. They do such an exceptional job, and we do have a certificate for the 2 of you, and we like photographs, so sorry to put you through it. And Mitch Ryder could not be here, but go ahead and give Mitch his, and then we're going to make sure. Let's take a picture. Let's move over here.
Let's get our cluster nurses in there too.
Come on, cluster nurses. And I forgot to say my cluster nurses, but let me tell you, they show up and they bring it. Lots of loading equipment and making sure we got things taken care of. So Janice, raise your hand. Janice Allison, Angie Haynes, raise your hand. And then where'd Leslie go? Leslie McIntyre.
Thank you, Northeast Georgia. Thank you to our nurses. This is a skill. 1,200 individuals doing hands-only CPR. They will save lives. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And Andrea also wanted to take this opportunity while we had you here. We now have the capacity to offer physicals to our 3,700 team members. The health insurance pays for that through our own health service center at MedLink down at Chicopee Woods. Talk a little bit about that potential to the board, please.
All right, board members, Mr. Schofield, my visionary here, and it was such a great idea. Very interested in offering our team members to be able to go and get a physical. And since those physicals are 100% covered, we wanted to offer a carrot because we want everyone to get their wellness check. And so we wanted to offer, if they use our school-based health center, Hawks Health, they could get 2 hours of free sick time. In other words, we would not deduct that time. We would allow them to go during work hours and have that done. So if they have a doctor, they probably need to go ahead and follow up that doctor. But if they don't, we really wanted to encourage them. This was a way for them to get their sick visit, their wellness check taken care of, and have a little incentive from us to really prioritize their health. Any questions?
It was Dwight Eisenhower who said, "Healthy soldiers win wars, healthy teachers teach children," and I do think we're well served to try to make sure that they're on top of their own physical health. So, any thoughts on that? Again, there'd be no cost to the district. It's already covered by their insurance. We have a lot of team members haven't had a physical in 10, 15, 20 years.
If they get that with their insurance, can they still have their yearly physical with a doctor, or is that taking place of their yearly physical?
That would take the place of it. So
And we want them to use their own doctor if they're already doing that. But again, this would just be an opportunity to encourage those who are not.
Any questions? Great, and I'm always available by email if you think of some later, but we appreciate your support.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I want to ask District Athletic Director, Mr. Stan Lewis, to come forward. We have some state champions we want to recognize tonight, Stan.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bales, we do. Anytime we get an opportunity to recognize state champions, it's a good thing. So first up, we've got the Cherokee Bluff High School competition cheerleading team with head coach is Rebecca Cooper here. If y'all would come up, please. AAA state champions. Come on, there we go. Yep, right here, this way. Here is your GHSA AAA
Principal Ramsey, come on up here. Come on. By the way,
state championship competitive cheerleading team.
By the way, Principal Ramsey, how many state champions has Cherokee had in their short history?
This is our very first.
Congratulations. Coach, I'm going to let you say a few words about the girls.
We don't have everyone here today because that's one thing about this team is they're so diverse. Most of them cheer on multiple teams, and so we have a couple at practice right now or cheering somewhere else. I have a couple with the flu too. But they are dedicated. There is no doubt. We don't ever end. As a matter of fact, some of these girls are going to cheer right up until tryouts and then do it all over again. So they're a year-round squad, even though we're just in fall to compete. And we couldn't be prouder to be the first in Cherokee Bluff history.
We get one more. How many seniors, ladies?
2.
So we'll see you next year.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. welcome to take the rest of the meeting. Sure.
If any parent wants pictures tonight, just again, let us know, and we'll send Jimmy, we'll send those pictures to Denise Ramsey, make them available to everyone.
Thank you. Congratulations again, ladies. Okay, next up, we are going to recognize some folks in the area of fine arts. One act play, North Hall High School, state champions for one act play. I believe the production was A Year with Frog and Toad. And here is Director Jan Ewing to tell us a little bit about the team and the great success they had this year. So congratulations.
In our production, we only had, I think there were 8 or 9 students that were on stage the whole time performing, singing, and dancing, but we had 50 people that were moving scenery. So of this group, only some of those people who were moles were moving scenery are here. But if you were in the cast, raise your hand. We also had, for state, we had, who was in the all-star cast? Was that you? Yes, Sage Dorsey and Sawyer Gray, and they were playing the snail and toad. And then our frog was also our best actor in the state, and that is Tate Pageant. So. You want to have us like make a little better stage picture? Yeah, can you guys make a little stage picture? Get them close. Do selfie.
How many seniors in your group, Jim?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4.
So we'll see you back next year.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll take one more. Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations. Good night. Second time?
Second time. One act. Yes. 10 years ago.
That's great. Congratulations once again.
If they need to end. And it's going to cost more than so we need to opt out. So he's saying it's not going to hurt. He's saying that we're going to have, if we don't opt out, we're going to need a person. It could be hired.
Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda? All in favor?
I was, so you're in favor of it?
Mrs. Bates.
I've already knocked off the first one, which was the hands-on CPR update. Andrew took care of that for us. Second item I have tonight is substantive planning guide changes. Most of these changes you'll see here, like at the beginning, you'll see literacy, literature and composition 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are new ELA standards, and so the old-fashioned ninth grade lit, as an example, is no longer course offering, and so you'll see it in the deletions. But these are the new course titles that we will offer in alignment with the state with regard to that. And then CTAE, Rhonda, you're going to talk a little bit about the additions that we're looking at CTAE here in our planning guides. I am going to ask the board, because of the timeliness of us being able to produce the planning guides for our schools, that you take action tonight. So any questions you have, let's work through them tonight while we have Rhonda here for CTA, or questions for me or anyone else.
Correct. So Kevin went over the English courses, and so those support courses will support that 9th and 10th. And if you'll notice that English Literature and Composition 2 is the state course that will be tested. For CTAE, we have a new initiative with the Georgia Department of Education. And so this new initiative involves, if a student completes certain pathways and they complete all 3 courses, then they can earn a 4th ELA credit, a 4th math credit, or a 4th science credit. And currently, looking at this list, we have 5 pathways that we currently offer that will satisfy where students can earn our ELA credit. We have 8 mathematics courses that they can earn a 4th math, and 1 pathway currently right now that they can earn a science. Georgia DOE probably will add some additional pathways, but this is where we are now. It starts this school year, And so the important thing to remember is that the CTAE Plus is an initiative between the high school and the TCSG institutions. So this fourth math, English, or science will count for admissions for TSCG. Now, if they're going to a 4-year USG institution, they'll still need the traditional path, okay? And then in addition to that, we are adding a new pathway at East Hall High School, poetry science, so you'll see a couple of those courses. We are adding a new health information management medical office pathway at Chestatee and West Hall, so you'll see those courses. Amanda is adding a new advanced placement course. As you know, this year we started the heavy equipment operations pathway at East Hall, so we need to get those courses in the planning guide. And then Johnson High School is adding masonry. Because of the English courses, we have a few deletions, so you can see those deletions there. And then a summary of the pathway changes. Any questions?
If there are no questions, do you have a motion to adopt? Do you have a motion? Second? All in favor?
Thank you so much. They'll be going to print tomorrow.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron. This time, we'll give the literacy update to the board. Obviously, from K-5 perspective, we have implemented a new core curriculum this year, and so I'm going to ask my elementary director, Matt Alexander, to give an update to the board on where we are with literacy and our initiative this year. A lot of resources have been provided by this board to our teachers across the district.
Right, and again, we're so thankful that the board has committed to this early literacy and using high-quality instructional materials. We began in June doing a training for all of our principals and assistant principals about how to support a benchmark workshop and what they should look for as they visit classrooms. Very successful. Then in July, October, and January of this year, all of our elementary teachers had a half-day training. We also have implemented coaching cycles, which is really where we see a big bang for our buck in terms of every school's already had 3 trainings at the schools, and we'll have 2 more in the spring. These trainings have been really well received, really positive feedback from our staff, and that's going to translate to student results I'll talk about in a few minutes. Later in February, we're going to have a training for principals and assistant principals to really figure out how to finish the year strong, and more specifically, what does benchmark look for us in year 2? And so that's ongoing training that you have supported, which we're grateful for. This year, in terms of our student data, we're really excited. Math growth data, which we look at for reading, this year in 12 of our 19 schools, we have better scores than we had last year. And more specifically, in kindergarten, 15 of our 19 schools are performing better than they did last year. So we think that's in relationship with the curriculum, and even more importantly, the professional learning that this board has helped provide to our teachers. Currently, we're administering the characteristics of dyslexia screener through map reading fluency in grades 1 through 3, and we're doing the screener map reading fluency for characteristics of reading difficulty in grades kindergarten. We'll do the dyslexia screener for kindergarten in the spring. That was on the advisement from the BOE because, again, with kindergarten specifically, we want to give them more time to develop the 3 years of life before we go begin to over-identify. We will turn in numbers to the state in February. We've got an extension. Actually, today the state gave us an extension because of the inclement weather we've had. So we'll report numbers to the state in February in terms of the number of students we have who show characteristics of dyslexia and characteristics of reading difficulties. You might think, why is it going to take so much longer if we already administered the screener? The reality is this. Any student who flags with a particular cut score, we then have to make a rubric to look at the whole child, which is a very good thing. Where we're struggling a little bit is the fact that we've gotten very little guidance from the state. And so a child who may have only been in the country 3 months, we still have to sit down and look at that whole child. And we ask the state, what's our guidance in terms of those second language learners? The guidance is look at the whole child. So that's going to take it's a heavy lift for our school, very clearly. In part of that, we're going to have to send a letter to, and we're happy to just send a letter to every child, K through 3, to say, they're great, they're not showing any difficulties of reading, or they're showing some difficulties, or they're showing characteristics of dyslexia, or they may have flagged, but we see other reasons like they're an EL student, or they already are a special education student, or they already have an IEP in place that serves their needs. So that's a process we're going through. A big change that happened in December that I want to make sure the board's aware of is we've been using math reading fluency this year as our screener, as have close to 25% of districts in the state of Georgia. The state board made a decision to limit this to 5 screeners. Math reading fluency was not one of those screeners. So we've shared that with our teachers through a video myself and Dr. Stacy Wagner created this year that we won't be able to use math reading fluency next year. We don't know what we're going to use yet, and based on what, as we've talked to Kevin, Mr. Spayfield, Mr. Bass, certainly said, let's wait and see where the state's leading. They may provide us a screener next year. They may provide one screener statewide, but we don't know yet. And they haven't given us a real firm timeline. And as the legislature's in session, we know that could change as well. So that's something we're certainly being well aware of. Again, we've seen good results with benchmark this year. Where we really believe is that when we have students that have been in this program 2 to 3 years, that we're really going to begin to see some really, really strong gains for our students. Again, we're pleased with where we are. We're excited about the commitment this board has shown to early literacy and professional learning. We know that this has probably been our most ambitious professional learning we've ever done in this district in the last 20 years. And so, of course, our next steps are going to look like, what do we do to support that in year 2 for our students? So that's an update of where we are. Happy to take any questions. Again, thank you as a board for what you've done to support elementary.
Matt, does the program we adopted, does it have any screeners built into it at all?
It does, yes, it has screeners. It has weekly and monthly screeners, but they don't qualify as that universal screener that the state requires us to use K3. So that's why we're kind of waiting to see if the district said, if the state says we're going to pay for a screener, we're happy to take the state's money to do that.
Well, at least we have a screener already, so we know what's going on.
Well, we have the screener that we've used this year, just kind of math reading fluency, but again, that was not on the board for that approved list for next year to upload. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Last item I have tonight is field trips, 3 field trips. One is the yearly WLA middle request to go to Costa Rica. This is a trip that's pretty common for WLA, and then we have Davis Middle School and West Hall Middle School. I don't know why the WLA middle is not showing on yours, but let me give you that information so that you have it. It's March 29th through April the 5th. And it is for approximately 13 students with 2 chaperones. And again, that's a trip they've made for each of the last several years. And then you see the other 2 on the screen there. And I'm going to ask the consideration to approve all 3 of those.
Hey, Kevin, the world language has been fundraising for the 3 years they've been in middle school, so they raise their own funds. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's spring break, isn't it?
It is.
Do you have a motion to adopt field trips? Motion. You have a second? Any other questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
Jonathan, financial report.
Yes, sir. Financial report is before you. Overall, we are trending in the right direction that we would like to be for December. Expenditures are slightly under budget, which is what we like to see. And then revenues are in a healthy place as well. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Jonathan, I did notice that we're a couple % behind in local tax collections. Would you just check with them and see if there's any, have any feel for that?
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Budget amendment number 3.
Yes, sir. Tonight, we are bringing before you budget amendment number 3. The overwhelming majority of items within this budget amendment are related to state and federal grants, which throughout the year, the state adjusts the amount that we are awarded, and so we adjust our budget accordingly to match those. However, there are a few items that are more local. So one of those items being a request that was mentioned at a board meeting a little while back for a position related to open records requests. Additionally, $572,000 adjustment for health benefits related to bus monitors, and that's in accordance with federal requirements for the number of hours being performed. And then also $10,000 in relation to instructional furniture and equipment at East Hall Middle School. If you have any questions about specifics, just let me know.
We would. We could, let's approve the financial report as presented, please.
You have a motion? Second? All in favor?
And then request approval of budget amendment number 3, please.
Have a motion to... Motion. Second? All in favor?
Jonathan, I want to thank you for bringing those forward. Our policy is consistent with the state, say we only need amendments and oversight at the fund level. We do it just to show everything for 100% transparency, so thank you for bringing that forward. School-based activity report is required quarterly. Johnson?
Yes, sir. School-based activity report is typical for this time of year. You will notice a large adjustment for DL Elementary, and that's just a situation where we had a bookkeeper who accidentally miscoded several deposits, and so we had those voided and reversed and then re-entered. So that's why you'll see those transactions in that way.
Don't need any action on this. We just need to bring it before the board quarterly. And again, feel free to email Jonathan and Kara any questions you might have about those school-based accounts. Facility and expansion program, Matt.
Yes, sir. The funding requests that you see, the 3 funding requests are from the work session. Just bringing those forward for action tonight.
Nothing's changed.
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the funding request? Second. All in favor?
Had a great, questions? Had a great recommendation from Bo, who came in and looked at the improvement for the site at North Hall Middle School in terms of trying to get cars off of Rillo Road and create a safer traffic pattern. Matt, you want to show us what the latest iteration you have, which makes an awful lot of sense and does not have buses crossing car traffic at pickup or at drop off.
Yes, sir. So if you kind of think of how this works currently, what's happening is cars are coming in here, coming around this way, looping out and coming out somewhere right in here. Our buses are coming this way at the same time, so we're having to stop that traffic flow a couple of times, which really, we have a lot of car riders at North Hall Middle anyway, a lot of car rider traffic, so that makes it very difficult. Actually, that crossing is kind of tough. The previous plan we had shown had us coming in down here somewhere, looping, coming back out this way, but we still had some of the same issues with the crossing. Had some conversations with Bo, as Superintendent mentioned, and also with principal. Showed him this idea here, and I believe that this is going to be an improvement. This gets us full separation of our buses, so our buses can come out here. Our cars are actually going past that. They're getting in a turn lane here. They're looping around up to 3 lanes here all the way, as much as the school is comfortable doing.
Matt, how people oriental or Rillo Road is?
I'm sorry, Rillo Road is right down here, kind of curving around right there. So anyway, I think this is actually an improvement in a lot of ways. It also allows us to get back out right here. So we come back out here. This allows us to actually continue the line and continue to let that happen, even if we're stopped for buses. So the buses go in 2 rounds. Basically, what happens is you load half the buses at the middle school, half at the high school, and then they switch. So this allows all of that to happen in a little bit of a better way. A few less cars, it's 30 less cars, but it's in the stack. But again, when I talked with the principal, so a lot of the issue is that crossing, and so we feel like that this would be a good answer for the situation. Just open it up for questions if there are any questions about it.
Actually could be a little savings too, in there, close to 3,000 fewer yards to haul off.
Less haul off. We did have a retaining wall right here in the previous design because we had to pull up so far to get looped back around. This actually eliminates that. They're calling for possibly a small wall here, which is like 3 feet tall or something like that. So this is the engineer called it in, so this looks like a good answer. Appreciate the input.
Question? So that being said, we're going to proceed with that plan. Thank you. Personnel, Dr. Swafford.
Yes, we have before you tonight the personnel packet for this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
changes since the work session?
Yes, and they're highlighted in yellow.
I believe you've had those and had a couple of days. So if there are no questions, I recommend that the personnel packet be approved as presented.
Do you have a motion? Do you have a second? All in favor? All right, it's time for citizens input. We do have two separate signing sheets, one for the board meeting, and there is another one if you'd like to speak on the hearing, House Bill 581. Susan Smith.
What do we do? Try to opt out of it? How are you going to tell us
Well,
when
good afternoon, good evening. Happy New Year, happy to talk to you guys about. Two things that are on my mind. One, last night, I typically take the agenda, download it, so I can see what's going on, and it was not available, so, you know, I don't think there are any particular rules in placing the agenda on early, but it would help to see the agenda, what's going to be discussed, and maybe the attachment, so that the public could make comments before it's brought here and voted on. We can't make any comments, you've already voted on it. So that's kind of, you know, just, we'd like to be able to see what you're going to be talking about and maybe be able to make comments ahead of time. So it's sort of like you are doing tonight for 581, but in general. So that's one thing. The other is I still would like to request that the live stream be recorded and be made available to people who watch at a different time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, and we'd like to apologize. Didn't we miss something in terms of a
Yes, sir,
toggle?
we did.
Because in 20 years, I can't remember that happening. What was it?
We did not have dialogue box checks appropriately. You got to fix it next time, you double check.
Great point. Thank you.
Eric?
I'm Eric Von Hock. I may have signed the wrong sheet. I want to speak about 581.
Okay, if you can wait till.
Yeah, that's fine. I apologize.
Well, we only have one sheet to start with, and
Oh,
if they're like, we should have two of them. Braylon?
I'm here for the 580 as well.
Vicky?
Still in White County, not White County. I do want to thank the board for this past year. We've learned a lot. As far as the group, we've now grown on the concerned citizens to over 3,000 people who are following us and wanting to know what's being done with the taxes in Hall County. I have learned terms I've never heard before. IEP, COGNIA, Georgia and U.S. Department of Education. These are things I never intended to learn, but we're getting involved and we're going to stay involved. Our short minute of fame has extended to over 7 months and we're not going anywhere. We want accountability and we still want transparency in everything that we do as far as where taxpayers' money is going. And so we appreciate Brad Brown and him helping us get the open records that we've requested, and thank you for your time.
Mr. or Ms. Cantor? The first name I don't have right.
Noreen, it's
Noreen.
HB 581 too.
Okay.
Pam Sullivan?
I'm sure I'll probably go over, but I'll supply the rest for everybody. Well, first I'd like to say I'm glad that there's nobody retiring this evening, so we don't have to worry about the focus going to cake instead of our citizens. Stand before you this evening, deeply disappointed and betrayed by the current state of our school system. My family's recently experienced some issues. Last month we came and spoke, and it was just kind of trashed, and that was really disappointing. So I'm going to share a personal story. 28 years ago, my grandmother was gracious enough to remove me from the public school system and put me in private school due to abusive behaviors from my teacher and other students. I never imagined that I would face a similar situation with my own child. Yet this morning, I found myself dropping her off at a private school for a trial run. The decision was not made lightly, and after repeated mistreatments from staff members and the refusal to allow her to go to the guidance office, I had no choice. Unfortunately, SB 10 funds don't cover all of that. They don't cover gas or anything else, wear and tear. They don't cover my time. They don't cover the stress on my other kids. But it's something we're willing to do. The last meeting, our 13-year-old daughter spoke. The issues that were plaguing her and this district were ignored. Children are being mistreated in our schools, and instead of holding individuals accountable, the district's response has been to provide the victims with coping skills. This sends a harmful message that being mistreated is acceptable and should just be simply endured. What's worse is that this approach allows abuse and manipulation to thrive under the guise of helping children. By teaching students to tolerate mistreatment instead of addressing the root causes or holding perpetrators accountable, you're enabling a culture where manipulation is normalized. This system is effectively silencing victims and teaching them compliance instead of empowerment, and conditioning them to accept mistreatment as part of life. This is not only unacceptable, it's dangerous. Our children deserve to grow up in an environment where they are protected, supported, and taught to recognize and stand against abusive behaviors, not adapt to them. We're also being told that DSG is a skills group. I've seen the curriculum now. I've looked over it with several licensed mental health professionals, and it's not what you're claiming to be. The material being presented does not match the descriptions provided to the parents. The lack of transparency erodes trust even further. If the curriculum is solid and above reproach, why are you misrepresenting it? There's no reason for that. This kind of deception practiced only deepens the divide between the parents and the districts, and it reinforces the perception that the well-being of the children is not your priority. I'll stop it there. I'll give you the rest. Thank you.
Randy Harris.
It's just the same story. The last work session meeting, I tried to log on through the little link so I can get on that on my computer. And the only thing that links over to is a YouTube page that shows up on the front of the screen. It doesn't give me anywhere to link into the meeting that's going on. So I really wish I'd look into that so that I can't come to every meeting. But it sure would be great if the link works so that I could watch it from home when I need to. And again, I would like to ask that y'all really, this year, sooner than later, consider recording these meetings and putting them online so that they can be watched by more than just those of us who are here in this room, because I do feel like we are pressed for time. All families are. You can't be involved in all the school activities because, you know, a lot of this reaches parents and grandparents. And we cannot be everywhere supporting all the kids and be here at all these meetings too, especially at dinner time on Mondays. So really, if somebody has a good reason as to why they're not going, you know, online being videotaped, I would really be interested to know that. But otherwise, if y'all really could do that, we certainly would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Aaron, were you aware that there were problems last month?
No, sir, I'm checking right now, but you're fine. We had a number of people on that last month, so.
Was that the last meeting or last month?
The last meeting.
Last meeting,
The
I'm
work
sorry.
meeting.
Last meeting.
So the last meeting, my mother was in Washington State helping my sister move. She was able to watch the meeting and see the
So if you go to the page that says, you know, click on the link here, and you click on that link, is there a time frame? You can only log in
No,
as
ma'am.
soon as the meeting starts?
It's open.
The only thing it would link me over to is the YouTube page where y'all do little YouTube videos. And no matter how many times I've clicked it.
Yeah, can you show me afterwards, please? Sure. Thank you.
All right, Brenda.
I'm Brenda Rose, I live in Love, and I am a taxpayer, and a pinch taxpayer, I might say. So I have a few questions for the board. Regarding, well, a couple of questions, but the first one regarding Mr. Schofield's contract for DSG. I would like to know why you would agree to a contract, first of all, that for a curriculum that his wife wrote and said, hey, okay, let's put this in Hall County, because that's not a conflict of interest because, of your position. So why would you approve that, for one? For two, why would you approve that Hall County pays for that to be compiled, and then Mr. Schofield and his wife make all the profits? Like, are you not here for the taxpayers? Why, tell me that's not a conflict of interest, and please explain to me how it's not. Okay, my second point is in Mr. Schofield's contract, paragraph 10, under renewal and termination, clause B states a reason for termination would be incompetency or inefficiency in performance of required or assigned duties documented by evaluations or other evaluation documentation, but only upon showing that the board has provided the superintendent with a reasonable opportunity to meet any incompetency or inefficiency. So in regards to the reading and math scores in this county that are below 30%, I'd say that's pretty incompetent. The fact that he and his wife pocket all of the proceeds and the taxpayers pay, and you want us to keep continuing paying, this is just a tip of the iceberg for the things that we pay for and the funds that have been misappropriated. But is that not immoral? Yes, I would say so.
Yep.
So under H, the clause for termination states, immorality being conduct, not conformity with the accepted moral standards of the community, including conduct indicative of corruption, indecency, and depravity.
Go ahead and finish.
That's pretty much all I have, so please explain to me if you would, because I know none of you respond. I'd also like to say that it's pretty disturbing that a high school student would come here to speak publicly, because this isn't easy, okay? Would come here publicly looking for help, and all of you, every single one of you, sat here silent, didn't even acknowledge her, not a word. So I'm not expecting an acknowledgement to my questions either. But know that not just me would like to know answers to this. Thank you.
Frank?
To start with, I want to let you know that this begins my 5th year of urging you to do the right thing regarding the climate crisis. Our world is threatened by many crazy situations, most of which you cannot do anything about, but you can act to mitigate climate change. Bo is a financial guy, and I have 2 hypothetical questions for him. First, in 2022, the Hall County School Board spent $3.6 million on electricity. That means that including that year, since then the school district earned more than $10 million. Solar electric systems are an investment. Our house has electricity producing solar panels on the roof. They produce 1/3 of the electricity we use each month. Does it make sense that all county schools should earn $300,000 per month? And solar electric systems at schools could save a good portion of that money? Second, you have 2 daughters who will most likely be alive in 2100. I have 4 grandchildren I expect to be alive then. What will the world they live in be like if the climate crisis is not addressed? Why we must act now. Climate change is not a distant or abstract issue. It is a present and accelerating crisis that threatens the stability of ecosystems, economies, and societies worldwide. The scientific consensus is clear. Human activities, particularly our reliance on fossil fuels, are driving an unprecedented increase in global temperatures. This rise in temperature is already causing devastating consequences from extreme weather events to habitat loss and species extinction. Despite the overwhelming evidence, many still underestimate the severity of climate change or feel helpless to make a difference. Even as the U.S., which is about 2% of the Earth's surface, shivers through abnormally cold temperatures, the world as a whole is breaking heat records. So far, 2025 has the hottest first 20 days of a year on record, according to Europe's Copernicus Climate Service. In the past 365 days, the U.S. weather stations have recorded 5 times as many heat records as cold, according to the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration. It reached its hottest year on record in 2024, according to the Commission's Copernicus Climate Service, the UK Met Office, and Japan's Weather Agency. The article says analysts concluded that last year's global surface average temperature was more than 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial baseline used to measure global warming. There's no reason that the Hall County School District should not include solar electric installation in the construction and renovation project in the 10-year plan for the district.
I'd like to ask a question real quick. So do you have?
Did he ask me a question? No, he says no.
I can't ask questions. Do you have solar panels on your house, sir?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
I'll tell you what.
They pay 30% of my electric bill.
Gotcha, okay. Well, don't speak for the rest of the taxpayers that pay for it. You, okay? You go back to your climate change.
Said you can't
If
discuss
no one
it.
else has signed up to speak for the regular meeting, we'll move right on into, well, a little bit early. We'll give another 10 minutes, meeting's supposed to start for the hearing.
We want her name and make sure she's in her group.
Make sure she knows how to find us.
Make sure she's in her
What? She knows that she's.
That's what she's got it. Oh, I'm just saying, Lord God help him.
She's in the group, she's on the page.
What's her name? I mean, everybody's got a right to speak, but we're taking a break for the, we can't start the other meeting officially at 6 o'clock, so about 9 minutes. Recharge, just at the door. So what are we doing? I don't know. Matt is saying he was one of the co-sponsors of the original bill.
Then why did they put the stupid opt-out in there anyway? Why did they put that
Because now they found out and figured out apparently if they go into this that we voted for, they're gonna have to create a whole new department and hire a whole lot of staff to handle what will have to happen. So if we opt out, it's gonna be saving the money. I don't understand, I've not heard.
Which one is Noreen?
Yeah, that's me.
Noreen, I'm here at the moment.
Oh, hey, I talked to you a while ago. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I've been busy in and out of town, but I was in.
So, what do you think of this H.350 581?
Well, its problem is it's still shuffling money around, and quite honestly, they need to start doing more with less money.
Exactly. They need to
Bottom line, they can,
Where with you?
all those, again, the exemptions on the homestead, they could enact a 1% sales tax.
Right.
So they're just playing a shell game. The bottom line, you have 80% or more of Johnson High School that's Hispanic. And I look at the planning for all county schools.
Have a seat. Have a seat. Stand. No, he left.
Yeah, that's.
She got it, didn't she? Maybe she's very great.
I used to be in truck racing.
I've been sitting here freezing her.
You know. So, are you Nancy?
Well, I don't want, I don't need that.
No, he's just like,
She is. It's Brenda Rose.
Accept it.
Brenda Rose. I see her.
you don't want them to opt out. And I don't either. Because it would
They should,
really, okay,
the mandate's already in place.
Right.
They're in charge.
Right.
Stop spending money, you know, and start
They're not going
telling,
to.
send a little note home and start packing their stuff up. The one that shouldn't be here. Start packing stuff up.
Well, they're-
Head back south.
they are. Trump's doing a wonderful job about getting rid of it. He's doing great.
Well, I talked to Andy Price.
How's he doing?
He's doing well. He's doing well. I said, I talked to Andy Price and told him, I said, we're going to start putting pressure on state local authorities and Chamber of Commerce and everything else to hire these folks and start pushing them out. So, yep. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing
This is a dog and pony. That's all it is. They won't listen to us.
When we go to the ballot, when they want the next East West, we have 6
And
months.
we don't need to pass it again, because we didn't this time, but you know what the county commissioner said, when we didn't pass it, well, we'll get the money some other way.
Well, but see, this is an East West this next time.
Yeah, I know, we don't need to do that either.
But the last time it was just COVID and people didn't go to the ballot, the ones that went, or the ones that voted for it.
I don't think Splash will pass around here anymore for a while, because we didn't pass the other one, and that's the first one we didn't pass in Holland. Because people are waking up to these taxes, and I don't understand why they want to raise taxes now when the economy is at the bottom. I mean, there's people struggling to eat.
I looked at Walmart on the way in. I don't buy eggs,
I know, but
but who could? I mean, who could?
I know they're going up to $12 a dozen. I mean, this is ridiculous. They're trying to starve us is what they're doing. I mean, geez. I feel sorry for people that are on fixed income and can't afford anything. And they either have to pay for their power bill or food. And insurance and power bills are ridiculous. But you have to have them. So, so by opting out, that gives them a chance to raise it as much as they want. So we have to not opt out.
But I think every school board in the school.
Did you read that thing on Access North Georgia they put out today? How many school boards already have opted out?
I didn't.
See if I can find it. Because people are fighting it, but school boards aren't listening.
I know Gainesville City has said that they will, and City of Beaufort.
Opt out?
Munkin County and White County.
They're gonna opt out? Don't make anything that battery, because that's Chris's. He's letting us use. It's just ridiculous that we need to fight this much. Yeah, here's the article in there. You can read it. Oh, there's Chris.
Come back from Augusta. Oh, to get here.
Huh? Yes. But it's supposed to be about You got 4 minutes. Chris, come sit here. Hey, girl. Hey, girl.
Wait until you see this video.
I'll read this when I get home.
Okay. Not heard that. Yeah, she did. She did. Good. She got them good. They just sat there. Did you sign up to speak? Huh? Did you sign up to speak?
No, but I usually say, does anybody want to speak?
Yeah, but you better make sure you sign up. You better, because there are a lot of people on HB 581. Make sure you sign up on the 6 o'clock sheet.
Is there a different sheet?
Yeah, there's one for 5 and one for 6. I think she may be able to go. Yeah, coming up. I didn't write anything else. I'm so nervous. I don't know. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. So you live in the fourth side, right? Do you work? Okay. So I can see if you're not doing anything Tuesdays at 11:30, we need it at the Golden Corral. Maybe I can come. You need to come to people, a lot of good speakers. Tomorrow we have
But during the 2024 legislative session, 2 bills related to property taxes were signed into law. Both bills resulted in local resolutions passed by our citizens. This legislation was designed to provide property tax relief to our Hall County taxpayers by limiting the amount of assessed value that a home can increase by each year, but only on properties with a homestead exemption. As an aside, these bills will create additional tax liability for those properties that are not covered by the homestead exemption. The first bill, House Bill 581, limits the annual increase in the assessed value of a home to the rate of inflation, such as the Federal Reserve's Consumer Price Index. Local governments or school districts may opt out of the legislation due to current conditions. House Bill 1270, a local act affecting the district, limits the annual increase in the assessed value of a home to no more than 3%. It has no opt-out provision, and it resets homestead exemption properties back to 2023 tax year values. This local legislation will provide substantially more relief than House Bill 581 for almost every owner of a homestead exemption property. In consultation with our fellow Hall County governments, we unanimously agree that managing the provisions of both bills at the same time will result in numerous and confusing sets of property values and rules for both homeowners and government officials who are charged with keeping accurate and updated records. Therefore, the Hall County School District has chosen to opt out of the state legislation, House Bill 581.
So Jonathan, if you'd clarify, the statewide legislation 581 gives local governments an opportunity to opt out, and the amount that a homestead exemption can increase is based on the CPI.
Yes, sir.
And the local legislation, which there's no opting out of, the 2 government entities and the school districts are under House Bill 1270, says whether inflation is 1% or 17%, 3% is the cap, and there's no opting out of that one. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we've read that statement, we have a list of citizens wanting to comment. Eric?
My name is Eric Von Haka. I'm a Hall County resident. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I do appreciate that initial statement to try and lend some clarity as to what's going on. I do know that Hall County has some issues that a lot of other places don't deal with because we do have the additional legislation that is specific to our county. I understand that this is a new area, and I understand that there are concerns about the additional work that will be done navigating both those bills. However, I still think it should be done, and at the end of the day, with all the work that you have to do, that's not your job. That's the tax assessor's job. So I'm not trying to pass the buck, but it seems like y'all are just wanting to take the easiest way out to get the most money. And I'm speaking specifically as a taxpayer because I got blindsided with these home values. I understand that the tax assessor's rate is generally looking for comparative sales, but I wouldn't pay the money that my house got valued at. I couldn't afford to pay it. Y'all are going to tax me out, not y'all, Hall County specifically, not the school board, excuse me. So I understand that the 3% cap is a good set rate, but we're talking about two different things. You know, they might have a similar result, but 581 applies to the entirety of the state, and it limits how much property values can be increased for tax purposes. Period, full stop. 1270, which is the Hall-specific legislation, provides a homestead exemption for Hall County. Those are not the same thing. The cap that the state placed for everyone, including Hall County, should remain, should not be opted out. Additionally, 1270 needs to be taken into consideration, but it's something different. That's a homestead exemption, where homeowners would have to apply for that. And I understand that children are important, they're very important. But the reality is county government, our government in Hall County, not the school board, has had unbridled property growth for years. I cannot afford it. And I should not be punished to live with my wife in my cute little 3-bedroom house with my 2 dogs. Because all of these new unbridled properties, the homeowners are supposed to pay taxes, but we're talking about a lot of children. We're talking about multifamily homes. It's not fair. We need to continue this and not opt out. Thank you.
Great question. By the way, the 1270 and the 581 are both on only homestead exemption properties, so it is the same properties. And so I guess I also would ask if you're aware that the local legislation also resets your values to 2023, which is going to be about 12% less. So it's going to take 4 years for most people even to get to a 3%. So I guess I'd be curious, what could the situation be where you would benefit more from 1271 than you would? Because there are a limited number of possibilities, but it's going to be extremely rare with the reset to 2023 and the 3% cap.
Well, and that's the reality that, because I asked myself the same question before I came to speak. That is going to be very situation specific, because I don't think that's something that you can predict for every property or every property owner. And so given that, I do think that unfortunately it needs to be on a case-by-case homestead property basis, because I mean we're getting slaughtered as taxpayers. I understand that y'all do not unilaterally control tax rates, but you know, I had to take time out of many days out of my life to go and watch the tax hearings and learn and go to them. And at that point, I learned that the initial appeal does jack squat, and then you actually have to go to the hearing. And then when you go to that, then it locks in your tax rate for 3 years. So going back to 2023 rates, it would have been beneficial to me to have gone a year prior, because that's when the tax rates really exploded. But I'm not sure that it should fall to me as a taxpayer to do the math to figure out which one, how I can best support the children in my community and not be run through the ringer and priced out of my home.
Right.
Right. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is William Sanders. I'm a taxpayer citizen here in Hall County as well, and I've known Deborah a long time. But I'm here to encourage each one of you to listen to your constituents. Remember who's paying this. It's most of the time, most of it's coming from people that don't even have children in school anymore. And it's like the gentleman said, we're being raped, we're being taxed to death. And I'm asking, I mean, when times gets hard around my house, we cut back. It's not a pie in the sky just because I could go to the bank and get it. And I'm asking you to remember who you're representing. I know you're here for the children of Hall County, but you've got to be here for the people of Hall County as well. Because it's coming from us. It's easy to say, yes, we need this, but there's times we can do without. Like I said before in the last meeting, when I was growing up, if we didn't have the money, we didn't get it. And I'm asking you to please consider the fact that, you know, you can only get so much blood out of a drum, you can't get it. And I'm begging you as a board to remember the people that you're representing as well. I mean, I know you've been handed a dirty deal. You're dealing with a lot of kids, a lot of unexpected growth because of the harebrained commission that we had over the last few years. Thing that came into this county, and you're having to deal with it, and we're having to pay for it. And I'm just asking you to have some common, just remember where it's coming from as you make these decisions, whether it be opting out or whatever you do. But please remember the taxpayers of this county. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Appreciate what you do. We've got a good school system. I was in it. I didn't benefit as much, but that was my fault. It wasn't any of the teachers' fault. They'll tell you that, and I will too. But thank you for your time.
Noreen?
Sorry about that, I'm horrible with names.
That's all right. It's fine. You have to excuse me, I'm getting all this credit. Thank you guys for letting me come speak. I just have a few things I want to say. Opting out of HB 581 will be problematic for us because it'll take away our safeguards. Without these safeguards, our property taxes could be raised, placing a heavy burden on all the property owners with no oversight. Okay, they could be unpredictable tax burdens. By opting out, property owners may face sudden and unpredictable tax hikes, which we currently did, which were horrible, by the way. This instability harms family on fixed incomes, small businesses, and those already struggling to make a meal for themselves. And the cost of living is absolutely horrible right now. And trying to do it during this time is ridiculous. Plus, it weakens the public trust. Opting out removes the structure process limiting provided by the legislation, giving tax authorities more freedom to raise rates without seeking voter approval or adhering to caps. This lack of transparency and accountability could erode the public trust in our local officials. And believe me, it's already there. So just a message, this is more about taxes. It's about standing up for fairness, accountability, and the right to have a say in how our community is run. Every top dollar that's raised in taxes is a dollar taken from household budgets or businesses or your future. So we must stay united and demand transparency and responsibility from those who work for us. Y'all work for us. You're accountable to us. So take into account what these citizens are saying. Thank you.
May I ask a question? If either way that we go, are we not limited and capped at 3%?
The local legislation caps that's at 3%.
Right. So, regardless
if we opt out of.
So there is a, which is probably the most, I don't want to say heavy-handed because I tell you what, I want some property tax relief. But 3% is pretty stout in terms of what has been handed to us. So I just want us to have the impression that there's no limitations. We're talking about a firm 3% cap no matter what we do. So,
yeah, that's a separate legislation, so
right.
It stays in place regardless.
Exactly. Right.
Can you explain that again?
what we're opting out of is 581, which is the state legislation that caps the increase at a cost of living increase or whatever they come up with from year to year. The local legislation that passed is at 3% increase in the value of your property, taxable value of your property.
Assessed amount.
That one stays in place regardless of what we do. There's no opt-out of it. So it stays as 3%, backdating to 2023 values.
As an example, Ms.
Two
Harris,
separate.
depending on who you ask, last year we had somewhere between 7.5% and 9% inflation in this country. That would have been the cap for your property tax under the state legislation. It could have gone up 7.5% to 9%. If the local legislation was in place, which you cannot opt out of, it still would have been capped at 3%. So it didn't matter that inflation was 8%. You still could not be increased more than 3%. And that's why it is an extremely rare event where you could see something where the local legislation would be less beneficial than the state legislation. It's almost impossible. There are some opportunities. If you had 2% inflation and your house went up 3%, that could cost you an extra 1%. But I can't think of a time in the last 20 years that would have been the case. So can it happen? Absolutely. And I think the county and the city are most worried about keeping accurate records and homeowners being confused with really 3 sets of books out here. House Bill 81, local legislation, and non-homestead exemptions. So.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that if you want access to BON, the superintendent did a great kind of analysis of what was going on in the Marcus Auto Show. That was one of the best presentations on it. And as a board member and as a taxpayer, because I'm about 5 years until I can get my 70, 71-year-old extension. So, I'm not there yet. So I'm not happy with the property taxes. But as I talked to Mr. Bells, and I said, Kevin, I sat down with this and looked at it and said, okay, Brian, forget your board member. You look at it as a property tax owner, a property owner. And I looked at that 3%. Had I not known anything about 581, I would have said, praise the Lord for that 3%. So, and I think it was unwise for both of them to be introduced simultaneously. So, but I don't want anybody to be to think that that your taxes could just skyrocket because there is that 3% cap, and that's regardless.
All right, Tyler.
Good evening, Board. First, I want to say just real quickly, I have 3 kids in Mount Vernon Elementary. I'm very thankful for Ms. Westbrook, Mr. Armour, fantastic staff there. So I don't know if this is in the record or not, but I did want to say that before we got into the rest of it. Something that just kind of thought, while you guys have been talking, if 581 didn't affect us, then there wouldn't be a reason to opt out of it. It seems odd to me that we're saying, well, we're not that worried about 581, but here we are talking about opting out. Why don't you just leave it? It seems interesting to me. But one thing I wanted to say, if we look at the time since COVID, obviously it changed a lot of things, but I think one of the biggest things that it changed was our mistrust in local government. And we don't even have to look nationally or at the state level. We can look at local government, right? The former chairman of this board is now also the former chairman of the Board of Commissioners for that same reason. So normally that looks like probably incumbents getting voted out. But I think if we look at some of the, I guess, lay of the land, if we read the tea leaves here, I think that also speaks to it a little bit. Despite the best efforts of Hall County government and the Greater Hall Chamber of Commerce, the T-SPLOS vote that you guys have talked about before was shot down 53 to 46%. So 52,000 people said no thanks to T-SPLOS. A little bit closer to home, of course, we talked about 1270. It failed 60 to 40, so 46,000 people told the people in this room, we don't want you guys to keep spending money like you guys have been spending.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit obvious to me, maybe a thing that you could say in relation to that was, well, the taxes they're supposed to go to this, so if you're going to complain, then realistically you should be for the taxes. And I think the answer there is it's not the problem with the taxes. I think there's a validity to the problems. I think the problem is that we just don't trust the people that are getting the money. And so what ends up happening is, we have this mandate, right? We have a mandate from the people, and instead of saying, well, maybe we should look at some things, or maybe we've got stuff here. When you guys talk about spending $200,000 for open records requests, it seems crazy to me. I mean, you could probably spend $0 if the stuff wasn't that shady. So I think that's really the problem there. Sorry, I'm going to go off track here. That's why I got the sheet of paper. All right. So it seems that we have some frivolous spending problems. I know there'll probably be a rebuttal to that. I heard recently that we spent an awful lot of money for some changes that were at the Agribusiness Center, a freezer door that apparently somebody didn't like. So we seem to be experts in juggling CARES Act and ESSER funds so that we can spend $9 million on a debatable building, whether we need it or not. But God help us if the voters are supposed to, uphold the continued expenditures of this board. So, thank you.
It's time to drain the swamp in all county. If you want to know my reputation, call Newport City Schools and ask them about the guy that forced them to end the mask mandates during my son's senior year. I've had about enough of paying high taxes while you folks sit and waste money. You waste money on programs educating people that should not be here in this country. One teacher over here has pointed out earlier this evening. Now, you guys can't affect that, but I suggest you start making phone calls to Andrew Clyde and others at the state and federal level to start putting pressure on them so you don't have to deal with it and spend the money. Because how many more millions of dollars would you be talking about, we're talking about here, for kids that actually belong here in the United States if you didn't have to pay for them as well? So, and I know this was a whole shell game, but there was a mandate at the state level from our governor that I voted for. And you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to start doing more with less money. Just like everybody here has had to do the last 4 years because some moron killed our economy the last 4 years. So y'all know about that. So I'm not here to start talking about big numbers. I'm a constitutional conservative agitator. I helped bring about the end of the income tax in Tennessee last year at the national years ago. I knew Governor Don Santos, a friend of mine. I didn't agree with him, I fought him on it. I don't want him, he won. So I'm putting you on notice that there's a new player on the chessboard. I'm an agitator. I'm a person that I get with folks like Noreen back here. I'm a project manager by profession. I used to work in entertainment years ago, entertainment business years ago. I'm a senior project manager and engineer. So if you excuse my language, I get paid to be an asshole for a living. That's part of my job. And I get results in my projects. They always come in at credit because I find what I need to do and move forward. So as I said, there's a new player on the chessboard. And I'm going to turn up I'm going to get every person in here that I can that needs my help. And I'm going to start squeezing. And I'm going to start calling people out individually. So you're not going to get rid of me anytime soon. If there's any corruption, and I heard about the conflict of interest, well, that's a problem at the federal level too, isn't it? And we know what happened there. So, unfortunately, you don't have a way to opt out, get out of jail free card. So if there's corruption, we'll find it out too. Have a good evening.
Mr. Smith?
Good job.
My name's Mike Smith. I live on Pemmican Run, and if you don't mind, I would just like to ask you a few direct questions to help clear this up. There are two tax proposals that have been passed, and they both are currently law unless you opt out. Is that correct? Okay. My understanding is that it's either the CPI increase on our assessments, or it's 3%, whichever's less. Is that correct? Okay, the argument I have heard so far for opting out is this is too confusing for everybody involved. I just explained it in less than 30 seconds. That's not confusing. It's 3% for the CPI, whichever's less. How does that hurt the taxpayer? Tell me why you have to get rid of the CPI limit to help us. Please, my clock's running. Somebody tell me. That's what I thought. You can't, because it is better for us. There's no reason to opt out of this. Somebody tell me why we should. I'm a huge supporter of education. I don't mind paying my school tax. But the recent increases have gotten out of hand, which is why both of these measures were passed. The voters have spoken. They want the CPI. We want both. You can give us both. And nobody can tell me why that's not the best thing for us. So please explain to the crowd, why do you want to get rid of one of them? I got a minute.
I'll give you one reason.
Please.
2008, I was pretty much a brand new board member, and when the economy crashed and everything happened, we sat here and Ellen Denver, Dr. Smith was, she was the principal then, and she can tell you what it was like when we had to what was it, over 125, Gary, you remember the number? In any one day, it was massive.
I'd like to interrupt you just for a second, because my clock's about to run out.
Oh, they didn't stop your clock?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Oh, they didn't stop the clock.
We had to make hard decisions because there was no money to pay those. It might have been more like 150, I don't know, teachers. There was no money to pay. I did not ever want to be in that situation again. Now we're faced with a situation where, okay, perhaps, let's say, I don't think it will, but let's say inflation next year, next or the next, whatever.
It's currently about 2.5.
Let's say, I'm looking at the future, let's say if it was 2. Okay, so that's a 1% less than what we would need. Now, I, as a taxpayer, I live on, I'm going to take my street. I live in South County on a small little lot. Now, what I know, what I see, what I go throughout the school, I'm willing for that, from that 3% to 2%, I'm willing to pay that extra 1% because I know basically what that costs. For my grandchildren, my kids were in there, and my grandchildren in there. So that's such a minor difference. I'm much more comfortable with the 3% so that we know what that is, we know what we're dealing with, we can plan for the future, we're not, it's not bouncing around everything. I don't think it was wise for them to come up with both the same. So that's my answer, and I appreciate you saying that. You may not agree with me, I respect you if you don't, but I just want to give you my answer to that.
I appreciate that, and you did answer that question. The parting point that I'd like to make is that currently the inflation rate, thanks to the Federal Reserve's interference or help, depending on how you want to look at it, is at 2.5%. So it would actually be less than the 3% cap. And that's what the voters said they wanted. All I'm asking you is, you got to give us the best of both worlds. It's within your power to do so. We voted for it. We're asking you to just do what we've already asked you to do. Thank you.
Pam Sullivan.
So I might make some people upset, and I apologize. So it's obvious that you guys already know what you want to do. There's no wiggle room. You're not going to listen to anything that these people have to say. What's really upsetting to me is that if it's already decided, Why would you guys even tell these fine people to come out? These are my neighbors, these are my friends. That makes me really upset. So, I have upset some of my neighbors and friends about this one topic, and I'll get to this other stuff first, or actually last. So I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to pay for schools, because I was educated by people that are older than me. You guys are educated by people older than you, so I think they should go beyond 70. I think we should all pay taxes for school. Because when somebody rings me up for a zucchini when I'm buying a cucumber, and then they give me the wrong change, it tells me that they're not educated. And that's upsetting. I hate that for them, because it's nothing I hold against them. I hold it against the people that should be teaching them how to count and how to do things like identify ability. So some of my questions, and you don't have to answer them, are, why did I vote?
You can't get it. Because he did it.
Why did I vote this year? Because that's really the heart of this, if you stop and think about it. As an American citizen, I went to the polls and I voted. And to turn around and have you guys say, you know what? Nah, we're actually going to do this differently because we can't actually budget correctly. Or we're paying for things that we actually can't afford. That doesn't sit right with me. This is a big deal. This isn't just about getting extra money for school. This is a slap in the face to everything that we are as U.S. citizens. And you know, there's something that right up there on that desk, constitutions. We're supposed to be one of the most constitutionally literate school districts. Don't we brag about that? And to turn around and say, you know what? You guys voted on this, but no, we're not going to do that. No, thank you. We need the money. And I understand the gentleman that said that he was against all these kids here, that we didn't need to be educating him because they don't belong here. I'm a firm believer in dreamers. Kids didn't ask to be brought here, but they deserve to be educated. If they're here, teach them. They're here. There's no reason that any child should not have an education, and that goes further until there's a point that we can't educate somebody anymore. If they're here, teach them. I'll pay my taxes, my regular taxes that I need to be paying, but for you guys to go and say, your vote no longer matters, that's a slap in the face to an American citizen, and I don't think it's cool. It's not okay.
That's all we had signed up to speak.
I actually signed up.
You didn't mark where you wanted to speak, so that's why I didn't.
I'm sorry?
You didn't mark that you wanted to speak.
She probably put my name on the list. Maybe on the other sheet.
My name is Chris Slade. I live at Shirley Road, and I have no children in Hall County schools, but I do pay taxes on my property. And I started coming to the school board meetings when our taxes got out of control. And Will Schofield said, why are you people just showing up now? Why are you just showing up now about your taxes? Well, we're showing up now to tell you that we don't want this. There's not anybody here in this room that has spoken for it. Now, what if the consumer price index happens to go down with the new president that we have? That's quite a possibility. So, because we have no trust, and you people, we feel comfortable with the 3% cap. You know, and it's been because we've been to every meeting, we pulled open records, I requested open records today. I requested open records about background checks on all the substitute teachers. And I'm sure I'll get that back in 3 days, but there's many more questions we have for you people than just the cap on the 3%. So until we have your confidence, we're going to stay with what's a safe bet. Thank you.
Mr. Harrington, can I speak? I didn't sign up.
Yes.
Again from Hall County. I'm speaking directly to the state rep from Hall County who has messaged me on the phone. And it says, if they ask for names, politely say you respectfully decline. We're going to keep my conversations confidential. However, this is what they say. If I was there, I'd get up and tell them how disappointed I am that they're opting out. My question would be this: the people of Hall County spoke,
at the ballot box? Why do you choose to ignore their wishes? And don't say it's because you're going to lose money. We know that. Give me a better reason. They'll respond with something like, you want Hall County students and families to be at a disadvantage in receiving high-quality education because of lower funding. And then you ask a follow-up question, something like this. The voters of Hall County spoke, and the taxpayers of Hall County pay your salaries. Remember, the board members are paid. Remind them nicely that this wasn't merely a poll. It was a ballot referendum. Ask them, if they were in your shoes, why should they agree to higher taxes when the property tax digest at an all-time, and it's at an all-time, and the state is spending more on K-12 than ever before? They're going to say something about exemptions and how that lowers their tax digest. And they just want to let you know that they're disappointed if you're considering opting out and not listening to the taxpayers.
Second. All in favor?
I mean, I don't know, I'm going with it. Trying to opt out, but they're not gonna do it anyway.